14 WILI and 95.3 FM presents Hometown Threads, a closer look at our community and the people that make it go. Every week, you'll hear uplifting stories from our local businesses and our neighbors. Now, here's our host for Hometown Threads, Keith C. Rice.
And welcome into episode 15 of Hometown Threads on 14 WILI, 95.3 FM, and Willimantic Today Facebook. Of course, Hometown Threads comes your way every Tuesday on WILI and Wednesday and throughout the week on Willimantic Today. Big thanks to our sponsor, Liberty Bank. Be community kind. 3 local locations. You got Gateway Commons, West Main Street, Willimantic. I think I know the manager there, my wife, Marianne Gargoni. Right across the street of the radio station, 679 Main Street in Willimantic. Hello to Angela Smart. And Kerry Small, the manager up at the Liberty Branch, Route 195 in Mansfield. Hometown Threads, as I said, 5:05 to 5:30 every Tuesday on WILI. Big thanks to J. Matt Rupar, does a great job behind the board for producing the radio end of things. And we got RJ, the admin over at Willimantic Today. Hello to everyone watching on Facebook. Episode 15, it is a huge pleasure to bring in another legendary business, Bender's Oil Service in Lebanon. We have Charlie Bender and we have Joe Russo. And welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
We got to let the Yankee fan in here. No, I'm kidding. We were just talking baseball for a while. It was the Yankee fan sitting by the door, the Red Sox fan. Anyway, and Charlie's a Red Sox fan, right?
Right.
All right, let's get right to it. Bender's Oil Service. Been in business for, is it over 75 years now, or is this your 75th year?
I think it's over 75. I always say it started in 1948 so I could remember because that's when I was born, but I think it's a little more than that. It might have been 46 or 47 that my uncle started the business.
Okay. Wow, 90, you're a year older than my father. Okay, my father was born in 47. So tell us about how it all went down. Actually, let's start with Joe Russo. Joe Russo, you hear his voice on the commercial all the time here on WILI. Yeah. And they run during the Red Sox games. I hope that's not a problem.
Well, you know, that's what was offered to me.
Sorry, we can go.
I took them up.
You don't do Yankee games, so
Joe,
that'll
right. Never happen.
No.
Anyway, with all, we like Yankee fans too on this show. Okay, enough of the baseball talk. Sorry. So, Joe, tell us. We know first of all, what's your connection to the Bender family?
Well, first of all, my mother is a Bender. My grandfather actually started the company back then, and he, I don't know, the story goes, Charlie probably knows it better than me, but I've heard various versions of it. He was right down here in Willimantic at what's now, it was the Iron Horse Cafe down there, way back then. And and now it's Charlie.
Right.
Charlie Plow.
I remember the Iron Horse. Yeah.
And I guess he was in there, and he was gonna buy a dump truck. He wanted to buy a dump truck, but whatever the case may be, his friend that he was in there, his drinking buddy, whatever the case may be, had an oil truck, and his plan was to convert it into a dump truck. And that winter, he bought it. I don't know, maybe previous to the winter, and that winter he decided to get a few oil customers and drive it down to Middletown where he worked, and he got a few oil customers up here, and he made some more money doing delivering oil than he figured he would doing delivering gravel. So he left it a dump oil truck, and that was that was a story I heard, is how things got started.
So Bender's Oil got started technically at the Iron Horse? Really? Over some beers?
I think it was called Dirty John's in those days.
Dirty John. Wait, Dirty John's or Dirty John's?
So.
Wow.
We'll have to
look that up. So from there, you know, I just kind of was always around Bender's as a kid. My father worked there for many, many years.
Because that's what I want to ask you. I know you're a few years older than me. Went to Lyman like myself. I mean, you finished at Lyman. I went a couple years that I transferred. But even when you're going through your high school years at Lyman, Joe Russo, and playing sports and all that, did you have it in the back of your mind, okay, I think, what was your game plan at that point? Take us through the high school years of Joe Russo.
Right. Well, I was really just mostly into sports. You know, that's kind of what I thought about as that age. And, you know, beyond that, I didn't really have a great plan. So I kind of continued playing sports for a few years into college at Eastern.
You went to Eastern?
Yep,
Okay.
I went to Eastern, and I played for a few years there. And then I just, kind of always thought at that point, I don't know, at some point that I wanted to maybe do my own thing, whatever that might have been. And I was more of an outside guy, hands-on guy. And so that I just kind of gravitated towards doing something outside with my, that sort of stuff. So I had like various construction jobs, and eventually I got into the trucking business with dump trucks, triaxle dump trucks.
Back to the dump trucks here.
Yeah,
Okay.
back to the dump trucks. And I really got into that, and I kind of enjoyed it. I had a lot of connections with different people over time, because you to try to find work and whatnot. And I had some pretty good connections. Believe it or not, I just kind of started out in the Yellow Pages, and I looked up different contractors in the Hartford area, and I told them I had a truck, and were they looking to hire anybody with their own truck.
So your mind at this point, and how old are you at this point?
I was in like maybe 21, 20.
Okay, so you're 21. You're not even thinking about the family business right now.
No,
you're really trying to go out on your own.
Definitely. And I didn't have a truck. I just told them I did.
Wow. My God. So wait, what happened? Did you ever think? What if they say, okay, well, why don't you bring your truck down here? What are we going to do? Take one from Bender's?
I would, yeah. I was going to, kind of come up with that plan as that situation evolved, which I did, and it did. They did say, yeah, we'll take you. We're redoing some streets or something, and they were Jamaicans.
So somebody took you?
Yeah, they did. And within a couple of weeks, I had gone out and got myself together with a truck. I already had my license.
Well, how'd you get the truck?
I think the truck part of it was.
Does Charlie remember this?
No,
Okay.
he might not.
He might not. He probably didn't know about it. All right, so
I think like the truck part of it back then, it was the early '90s.
Early '90s.
Yeah, late '80s, early '90s. That you were looking in the classifieds.
That's right. Now we're sitting on
now
it.
I don't know if those even are in the paper.
Now we got Google.
Now we got Google, right? And I just got myself set up rather quickly, and it kind of started from there. And then
So you started doing that. How long were you doing the dump truck thing? And
I did that for a long time. I got up to like 6 or 7 trucks, and from there was one.
Well, this kind of took off then.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Wait, was it an actual business?
It was a business, Russo Trucking. Yeah.
Oh, Russo Truck. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, got
absolutely.
it. I thought you were going to say it was going to dissolve within like an hour, and you were going to be offended.
No, not at all. No, I did that for 20 years probably.
Great.
Yep, I would say in about 20 years, maybe a little bit more. And we got a lot of trucks, and got into doing the tanker work for Charlie, and and then other just other types of trucking, and then that's how I got kind of my business background.
So how many employees did you have with Russo's
I had about
Trucking?
5 at one point in time,
And what led to the crossroads? You're like, okay, were you getting tired of it, or were you just wanted to, or did the family business want to bring you on? And
Right. Well, I was a kind of a subcontractor for Charlie. I brought in all the oil and diesel fuel into the yard, into the tank farm at the yard, for quite a few years. And I'd always told Charlie. I remember telling him this maybe more than once, but one time in particular, I said, Charlie, if you ever come to a point where you want to sell the business, I would be interested in carrying the torch.
Now here we go,
so to speak. And Charlie just looked at me. He didn't say much because
you gotta be out of your mind, kid.
Yeah, but he always kind of knew that, I think, and and then from there, I think the time, Charlie can probably speak to that as far as what the time frame was, as like when they were ready to get out a little bit.
And that's what I want to get into as well, because I moved around a lot, and I remember coming back to the area and go, who's Joe Russo from Bender's? And I remember hearing, I think you guys used to voice some of the commercials, right? Ronnie did.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing Joe Russo, and then we became friends on Facebook, and of course we go back and forth. Baseball, I'm not going to get into that again. But anyway, and then I'm starting to learn how it all happened. And now, Charlie, take us back to, well, you guys, your brother, first of all, run down all the brothers. Charlie, you, Ron,
Jimmy and Kurt.
Jimmy and Kurt.
Right.
I thought I was missing somebody there. Okay. And they all ran the business, right?
Jimmy did not.
Oh, Jimmy did not. What did Jimmy do?
Jimmy worked for the Fish and Game Department,
Oh.
DEP, Fish
Okay.
and Game.
So Jimmy wasn't involved.
Nope.
It was just you, Ron, and Kurt.
Kurt, right.
And what were all your roles pretty much throughout the years with Bender's Oil Service?
Well, I did a lot of the delivering. Ronnie did some delivering. Ronnie was in the office, attended the office most of the time. Kurt was on service.
Okay.
He was a service manager and service man. Actually, there were a few years when he was the service man.
Really?
Period. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was pretty tough.
Was it just you three? You guys must have more on the staff, right?
Yeah. We let's see. Mark Tolman worked for us for quite a
Okay.
while, and then Howie Bates came on as a second serviceman. Roland worked for us. Joe's father worked for us for a long time before he, well, somehow in conjunction with Joe's trucking business, they got a trailer or two trailers, and then they were hauling the oil for us. So Roland and Joe were a separate entity working for us. But Roland had worked for Bender's Oil Service for
I
what?
think he said 33
I'm
years.
trying to say
Yeah.
at least 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and how many generations does it go back again?
Well, Arnold Bender started the business.
And that's your
That's my uncle.
that's your uncle.
And my
Okay.
father bought in 1958. And then when Arnold died in what years? Do you remember what year was that?
Yeah, I think it was 1969.
1969.
69,
He
yeah.
died. And my father bought out from his widow, my aunt, bought out the rest of the business. So my father and mother were the sole owners of the business. And then it was, I'm going to say, right around 1980 when Kurt and Ronnie and I took over the business from my father and mother.
So right around 1980.
Right around then. I can't remember exactly when. I'd have to look
Right, right.
someplace, but it was right about then.
Now Bender's Oil, of course, Bender's Oil Service. We should mention Route 289, Lebanon. Was it always? Sorry, as my father likes to say, Lebanon. Do you guys say Lebanon or Lebanon?
Lebanon.
And I hear people. Does it bother you too? Sorry, I digress. You know where I'm going. But
Yeah.
when people say Lebanon,
No,
It drives
of
me crazy.
I was born in Lebanon too.
Yeah.
Lebanon is a country, Beirut, right? Or
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right, country, right?
Yeah,
it's a country.
Yeah.
I am good in geography. But
Can I tell you a quick story on that?
Please do.
I always thought that's where it came from. I was on
Oh,
a
Lebanon.
cruise ship one time, okay, and I went down having breakfast, and I was sitting. My brother sleeps in all the time, so I was. I got a window seat, and I was sitting at a table and eating my breakfast. And this gentleman comes over, and he asked if he could sit with me, and we started talking a little bit. And I asked him where he was from. He had a little bit of he had an accent, definitely, and I asked where he was from. He says Lebanon. And I says, well, I'm from Lebanon too. I knew he meant the country,
Yeah.
but he said Lebanon and not Lebanon.
Wow. So even the country they call it Lebanon.
Yeah,
So we're saying the country wrong, I guess, right?
Right.
Because then even on
Not
the
us.
news years ago, they'd say Lebanon, I think, right?
Oh, yeah, that's-
But yeah,
this started with the yuppie generation.
wait, are Joe and I in that generation? But yeah, you can always tell somebody's not from Lebanon. Like we've had people work at the station that will voice a spot, or they'll say Lebanon on the air. I'm like, oh, somebody please tell that person it's
You
Lebanon.
don't know how many calls your father got over that.
Get out,
Every
really?
time I heard it, I called him.
Oh yeah. All right, glad we're all on the same page with that. All right, we're talking with Joe Russo, Charlie Bender, legendary Bender's Oil Service here, Hometown Threads on 14 WILI 95.3 FM, and Willimantic Today Facebook. So, all right, 1980, around that time, you, the three of you, take over the business for your father. How old are you at that point? I mean, well, all three of you guys. Well, roughly.
You're making me think now.
Hey, I'm going to be 51 in April. I'm getting up there too. I mean,
I was in my mid-30s.
okay, so mid-30s, and you're ready to, you guys were ready to take over the business, or
Yeah,
or just kind of.
We had worked in it for quite a while.
So you guys
already.
were, yeah, that's right. You were already in the business,
It's not
and
like it's not like we came in cold.
right, that's right. Vendor's Oil Service.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you got heat going. Yeah, probably cold.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Terrible,
No
terrible
pun
joke.
intended.
So, are you taking over? And the three of you, you've been in the business for a while. So, your dad just figured it was time to step aside.
Yeah, he decided it was time for him to retire, and
Yeah.
he retired. My mother stayed on for a few more years afterward,
Okay.
and then she finally retired, and we hired more people for the office and more truck drivers. Well, Mark Tolman was with us for quite a while. He was year-round, and then we had some seasonal drivers as well.
Oh, okay. So I was too busy laughing at the Lebanon thing. You were always based on Route 289, right? Is that what you
Always
said?
right there,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never thought of. I mean, it's legendary office too. Did you guys ever think of picking up and moving maybe somewhere else in Lebanon, or just you
No,
always?
no, I never did.
No.
My father mentioned it once or twice, but not anything
I
serious.
mean, you're in a good location there. 289 is.
Yeah,
well,
Yeah.
definitely.
You call it? Do we call it Burnham Highway or 289 or
Beaumont.
I mean
Beaumont.
Beaumont. Yeah,
Beaumont.
Sorry, Burnham Road, Beaumont Highway. I'm
Right.
thinking of Burnham Road.
Burnham's up the ways away.
But yeah, you're in a great spot there. I mean, heavy traffic, so yeah, why move? Okay, so take us through the first few years of you boys taking over. By the way, I got to say, we talked about this off here. The whole cutting ice thing was that a. My father used to really. I was. Oh, geez, I don't know. I was before high school. I would tag along sometimes. You guys would
Yeah.
have these big parties where you're cutting ice in
Yeah.
the winter, right?
Yeah,
And my father was always invited, and it was that was up on the pond.
yeah. My uncle's pond. That was the Librance pond.
Was that a
But-
Bender tradition,
Well,
or just like a town thing?
well, you know, it was a thing
Well, you can
years
pick
ago. Years ago, they cut ice to keep milk cold in the wintertime before there was electricity.
Yeah.
Every farm had an ice house, and they would cut ice and pack it away in the ice house to keep their milk cold in the winter time, in summertime. And we always heard the stories, you know, of my uncles and my father would get together and they'd tell us stories about cutting ice and whatnot. And so one time, I think Jack, my cousin Jack, was one of the ones that really spearheaded. He said, you know what, we ought to cut ice sometime just for the heck of
Yeah.
it. And because my father was still alive and my uncle, my mother's brother, was still alive, and he had all the tools in the barn and at the farm, and the ice house was still there. It was used for other things in the last, I don't know, previous 40 or 50 years. But we cleaned the ice house out, and we packed ice away, cut ice, and packed it into the ice house, and
A nice little tradition.
and it stayed all summer long.
Wow. Now, when was the last year you did that?
Oh gosh!
So I'm
I
making
don't
them think
know.
again.
No,
All right, you don't have to.
not even a clue. I can't remember. It's got to be 10 or more years.
Wow,
I'm sure.
wow. So I see you're still wearing the shirt, so obviously you're still involved in the business, keeping Joe in line, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are Ron and Kurt doing these days?
Ronnie retired completely because that was one of the things that made us decide that we were going
Step
to
aside.
move on. Well, Ronnie had a stroke,
Oh, I
and
didn't
he
know that.
lost use of his left hand and
Oh.
his left leg, pretty much. And
How long ago was that? Sorry to make you feel-
2008, I think it
Was
was,
it-
9,
Okay.
somewhere around there. And he really wanted to retire, and I was open to the thought, you know, Kurt, I don't know, not so much, but then we decided, okay, we're going to see what we could do about selling the business. And
You knew Joe was interested, right?
I knew Joe was interested, and at the time, our other cousin, Carl, he was working for us in the wintertime, seasonally. He had a construction business. He did digging and stuff in the summertime, and he was working for us in the wintertime, which worked out very well for both of us. And he expressed interest, and it was a case of, now what are we going to do? You know, who do we talk to? You know, and
So you had Joe interested, you had Carl interested.
Right.
Were there other people in the mix? I mean,
no, not that I know of.
okay.
You know, and we said, well, we'll sit down with the two of them and see what we can hammer out. And we got some outfit that specialized in, I guess you call them consultants, and for lack of a better word, and this one guy in particular, he sat down with us, and we did a lot of hammering, a lot of pounding
Wow.
on the table.
So this is kind of a process here.
Oh,
yeah.
it was a process, yeah. us figuring out what we wanted and them figuring out what they thought they could afford.
Okay, I see. So around again, I don't need you to name a year because I know it's tough. I can't even remember certain years. But what's the time frame this all happened again?
That was 2013.
Oh, so it's 2013. So it's not that long ago.
October of 2013 was when we officially
Okay.
made the transition.
October of 2013, and so the transition. Obviously, Joe became the president. Is that your title, the owner?
No, I'm one of the owners.
One of the owners.
We're co-owners. Yep.
So you and Carl, or
We're
is it-
50%.
Oh, got it.
50,
Nice.
50, yeah.
So Joe and Carl, co-owners.
Yep.
Okay. Charlie, you're still there. What kind of capacity are you still helping out?
I do, whatever has to be done, basically. I do
So you're
a
kind of-
certain amount of book work,
I got you.
do the taxes every month,
Yep.
which is a big pain. But I
So
do it.
basically, kind of,
I keep-
you're in the office.
I'm
pretty
in the
much,
office
work.
primarily, and once in a while, that's something. Everything gets busy and everything's gone nuts. And Carl will say, "Hey, can you take a couple the deliveries out? Everybody else is going in different directions. We got this one over there." And in
Oh, good. They still let
East
you out on the road.
Oshkosh,
That's
every
good.
once in a while, not as often as it used to be, but.
That's good. Well, that's good to know you're still in the office now, Joe. What's a 9 to 5 day, or what's a day in the life of Joe Russo like, being a co-owner of Bender's Oil Service?
Well, there's a lot of like Charlie said, just kind of overseeing things, and I'll deliver when we're busy. That's really not my primary job. We kind of all, Carl and I assist each other in in the dispatching of the trucks. That's a big thing. And then, there's 5-6 service guys, and there's the schedule for that, and following up with people, and it's just there's a lot of that stuff going on all the time. So
You and Carl kind of split that?
yeah, yep. We kind of, we get the dispatch out, and we have 3 steady drivers, and then him and I will just kind of plug the holes where they need to be filled, and then we just go from there.
Well, this is the part of the show as we get ready to wrap things up where why don't you shout out to everyone on your staff? You want to mention any names, people that have played a role throughout the years, and then we'll mention some of the stuff that Bender's has going on. Anything you guys want to push. So why don't you mention some of the staff members right now?
Well, we like to thank all of our staff. We have Tim Cleavers, our service manager, and John Shipton is our inside of our office manager. Jamie Vincent really is inside the office helping us out, and all the drivers, Bill Archer, his brother Sean, Johnny's father, John Shipton Sr. drives. I mean, there's just a lot of people.
Are these all Lebanon people?
Are they all Lebanon
No,
people? I don't
just
know. You're
wondering.
making me think
So
again.
far.
So far, I
Yeah.
believe they probably are. Yeah, and Carl and I as well, Lebanon people.
Well, that's right.
Kinda.
Lebanon guy here. I live in Wyndham Center now, but I'm a Lebanon guy.
Yeah. So.
But it's great. Now, what is some of the stuff that Bender? I know we're kind of nearing towards the end of winter. It hasn't really been a winter. But what do you? Anything you guys want to push for Bender's Oil Service?
Well, we start to transition into the air conditioning season. That's something that we kind of added on as we took over the business. That kind of evolved into, like a one-stop shopping thing, where you can kind of just use us for your entire, heating and cooling, systems. And so we'll get that ramped up pretty shortly. We already have a lot of Mitsubishi mini split systems that we install that are on the books, getting ready to go. So
It's good to know. Good to
yeah,
know.
so that's right around the corner, really.
Where obviously they can find you on Facebook, Bender's
Yeah.
Oil Service.
Yep, we're on Facebook, and then just bendersoilservice.com. Go to our website, and there's lots of information there about all that stuff, our contracts, our service contracts, and stuff like that. We're really, into as well.
And I hope hope the family's doing well. So glad you guys can make it down.
Yeah.
As we continue to have legendary businesses here on Hometown Threads. Pleasure to talk to Charlie Bender and Joe Russo, co-owner of Bender's Oil Service, Route 289 in Lebanon. I love saying it, Lebanon. And of course, Joe and I will have the baseball show coming up next. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
I'll stick around.
Yeah, big thanks to Liberty Bank, Be Community Kind with 3 locations, Gateway Commons, West Main Street, Willimantic, 679 Main Street, Willimantic. I don't know why I'm pointing when I do this all the time. Route 195 in Mansfield. Big thanks to Liberty Bank, Be Community Kind. J. Matt Rupar, RJ from Willimantic Today Facebook. Thanks to everyone watching on Facebook and listening on WILI. And that'll do it for episode 15. Big thanks to Bender's Oil Service. Thanks for watching and listening to Hometown Threads. And we'll see you next week.
And that concludes another edition of Hometown Threads. Got a story for Keith? Reach out to him on Facebook by searching Keith C. Rice or email him at krice@hallradio.net. Don't forget to tune in next week on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM, as well as the Willimantic Today page on Facebook.